Okay, so one of the interesting things about making films is that in studying them and making them, you learn that everything matters. Everything that's in the frame has been thought about. It's there for a reason. So I like to probably read too much into things, but one of the things that I thought was fascinating about the conversation, the dinner, once we've established the beginning, is the set design, the things that are around them. And one of the things, if you look, is there's a mirror behind them, and it has an interesting frame around it. In particular, there's a circle and a square around it. Now, to me, the circle, and I'll just reference one place that I had this idea thrown at me, which was the book Lame Deer Seeker of Visions, where they talk about how the circle is a fluid thing. It represents movement, right? And it's found in nature, whereas the square is not. There's nothing square that's natural. Human beings make things that are square. I mean, think about the things in our lives that are square. Money's square, our walls are square, our houses are square, our screens are square, the movie screens are square, our credit cards are square, everything's square, not in nature. And so in this design of this mirror, there's a circle with the square around it. So to me, that felt like a perfect symbol of movement being encased or caged around this artificial square thing, that there's a lack of harmony there being said about the characters. And as you go through the movie, the background kind of darkens. So in the beginning, it's kind of prominent, but by the end, even though the restaurant's closing and they probably turned off lights, it fades into the background as their conversation happens and they start to open up. I thought it was really fascinating. The other thing that was really interesting was if you look behind each character, it mirrors what they're experiencing or what they're going through. So for example, behind Andre, you notice that there's like a waiter station behind him. There's constant waiters coming and going and grabbing water or whatever. You can see the bartender in the distance. He's moving back and forth. Patrons are walking back and forth. So that mirrors his movement and his talking and his constant storytelling. But as you go to the left of him, behind Wally, you get a wall. And it's just stillness. You know, that wall is there for a reason. It's still. You wouldn't have it the opposite way, would you? It's interesting to watch the background of each, because they tell you what the character is going through. And by the time you get over to Wally Shawn, there's a really interesting thing that's happening. There's a mirror there, and you see people sitting in the restaurant. So the difference there is stark. Behind Andrea's movement and behind Wally is a wall and a mirror that's showing people sitting. So if we go back to the theme at the beginning about movement and how Wallace Shawn is walking to dinner, he's taking the subway, there's something really interesting about his arc in particular, which is as they go through the conversation, both characters start to open up, right? They start talking about different things in their life. Wally starts to open up, Andre starts to listen more, and there's this balance, this harmony that sort of happens in the middle of the conversation, and by the end of it, they're changed. You can tell, right? What happens is that Andre decides to pay for dinner. Because Wallace Shawn went to dinner with him, he's got this dinner, wine, everything at this expensive restaurant. He seems to be very thankful about it, and what he says at the end is that he treats himself to a cab on the way home, which is, you imply that it's a treat, so he doesn't do it that often, and he goes through this process of, hey, I'm going to, subconsciously maybe, enjoy movement here. And it's different than walking, right, because it's walking slow, and it's different than the subway because it's moving fast. But what's interesting is that the cab is like some sort of in-between. It's like perfect for him. It's more movement than he's used to, but it's not quite as stressful and light speed as the subway system and all that. So he's in this cab, experiencing movement, more movement. He treats himself to the cab, he says, because he wants more movement after this conversation. I think that's what's going on. And what's interesting is that we see him looking out of the cab on the way home, and we get shots of the city moving block after block. So it's like we're looking out the cab as well. And he's remembering all these things about his childhood, standing on this block when he's 10, or getting ice cream after school on this other block. And the movie ends with just the shots of the streets and the blocks going by. To me, that is a brilliant shot or idea or concept or sequence of shots for the director to put in there because it's about movement. So you have a character who wasn't moving, he feels stagnant, he goes through this conversation, he's transformed, at least initially, and he's embracing movement by the end, and you see it through the shots.